Okay, so let's start off with the crash this morning at 6th and Cliff Avenue. This happened about 5 a.m. We had one vehicle. It was a 2005 Chrysler Town and Country that was on 6th Street, and it was making a right turn to go north on Cliff Avenue. That car had a green light. There was another vehicle, a 2005 Ford Freestar, that was going north on Cliff Avenue. Traffic for Cliff Avenue had a red light at that point. As the Chrysler was making the turn, the Ford ran a red light and struck the Chrysler. The driver of, I got that backwards. Let me start over again. I got them flipped around. So the vehicle on 6th Street was a 2005 Ford Freestar. That car was making a right turn to go north on Cliff. We had a 2005 Chrysler Town and Country that was driving north on Cliff. So the Ford was making a right turn on a green light. The Chrysler ended up running a red light and struck the Ford. The driver of the Ford died on the scene. She's a 53-year-old woman from Sioux Falls. Family is being notified, so we're not going to release her name at this point. The driver of the Chrysler was arrested for manslaughter, second degree, and reckless driving. Her name is Mariah Brooke Hagen, M-A-R-I-A-H-B-R-O-O-K-E-H-A-G-E-N, and she's 29 from Sioux Falls. This accident happened to be, as it's pretty much standard, I guess, at this point, is for officers to check if there's surveillance in the area, and this accident actually was captured on surveillance video. And so that was one of the things when they reviewed that. You can clearly see that the Ford was going on a green light, and then you saw the Chrysler traveling at a very high rate of speed and struck the car. So the investigation is not over yet. They'll still do a full reconstruction. So whether or not speed or alcohol was a factor, I mean, we know that speed was a factor, but as far as the exact speeds, they'll try to determine a minimum speed for that, and then they'll look to see if any alcohol or drugs were involved with this as well.
Any other individuals involved in the vehicles?
No, each vehicle had the one person inside of it.
We had heard that one of the vehicles may have hit a barricade or been close to a house or something.
That was a different, well, I guess I don't know where the final resting positions were, so I don't know if I didn't see anything in the initial report about hitting a house. We did have barricades that were set up because I think they were going to be clearing that intersection shortly. One of the lieutenants came by and actually wanted me to pass along to thank you for everybody for staying away because traffic was pretty minimal. We did have an incident around 7:50, so we had barricades that were set up so they could process the scene, and we had a woman was driving a vehicle and ran into one of the barricades. Once she hit the barricade, she backed up. I think for a short amount of time the barricade was actually on her vehicle. She then went into some of the neighborhood roads. We had an officer that was able to stop that car near 6th Street and French Avenue. And as she pulled over to stop, she ended up hitting the curb and then ran into a parked vehicle. She was arrested for DWI first, reckless driving, hit and run, and then some other traffic violations. Her PBT was a .182. She was arrested for those. Her name is, his last name is Redda, R-E-D-D-A. First is Lydia, L-Y-D-I-A. Middle is it's B-E-R-H-A-N-U, and she's 18 from Sioux Falls. So I'm not sure if that's the one, if the barricades were involved. I'm guessing it was probably that one.
And you already provided the name of the 29-year-old?
Yes, that's Mariah Hagen is the driver of the Chrysler. Make sure I got that one right. Yep. Sorry, I started off wrong on that one. Any other questions about that? Okay. The only other thing that I have, the one aggravated assault that was, had a couple of relatives that were throwing stuff at each other, no serious injuries. One of them was arrested. We had one near 46th Street and Holbrook Avenue. This was around, we got called about 7:50 p.m. last night, so maybe a little bit before that, about 7:30-ish or so is probably when it happened. But we had a car, ended up being our victim, was driving on 41st Street heading west. She ended up seeing a Mustang that was driving pretty fast and seemed to be passing cars. She didn't think anything of it, was planning on making a left turn, so she went into the center lane, actually the left lane first and then the center lane after that. And the Mustang ended up tailgating her, following her as they were driving south on Holbrook. When they were near 46th Street, the driver heard some noise. Didn't think much of it, drove another block or so, and then pulled over. The Mustang continued on. The driver of that car then went back to the area, and there was somebody outside and asked if they heard that noise, and the person that was outside saw that there was a bullet hole in her car. So what happened as they were nearing that 46th and Holbrook, the Mustang went to pass the car in the residential area, and then a person in that Mustang fired a gun, and it struck the woman's car. It hit the back of her car in the trunk and then exited out through the rear fender. The bullet then continued, and there was two different cars that were parked in a garage that were struck. The homeowner was outside near the garage at that time. Thankfully, nobody was injured with this, but took a little bit to kind of piece that together. So between the two people, they were able to give a pretty good description of this Mustang. We had officers that found that Mustang near the Falls Park Farmers Market. There were three people that had been in the Mustang. Turns out it was the passenger in the back seat that fired the gun. He had taken that gun in his backpack out of the Mustang and then put it in another vehicle, but all of them were still there when the officers got there. So there's also some marijuana that was found in his backpack. He was arrested for 2 counts of aggravated assault, committing a felony with a firearm, 2 counts of discharge of firearm at a car, intentional damage to property, reckless discharge of a firearm, looks like two intentional damage to property charges from that. And then the marijuana and paraphernalia. And his last name is Duinkerken, I believe. Duinkerken is his last name. First is David, D-A-V-I-D. Middle is Dakota, D-A-K-O-T-A. And he's 18 from Sioux Falls.
Any charges for the other people in the vehicle?
No charges for the other people. We obviously were able to identify them, but no charges. The burglaries, those ended up being reports. We had one business, had a glass door broken, some liquor taken, had an apartment and storage unit that were entered, and then some items taken from a garage. The disorderly conducts, nothing big from there. Those ended up being some reports. The embezzlement was some cash that was taken, but no arrests on that yet. Family offenses were more reports, protection order violations, domestics. The frauds, we had a couple of ID thefts. One of them, somebody sent a package and the person ended up saying they didn't receive it and got a refund, but the item was delivered, so we're going to work on sorting that out. The larcenies, most of those are shopliftings. We had a couple of unlocked cars, some backpacks that were taken, but nothing real big. The other narcotics were marijuana and meth. Nothing serious from the simple assaults and nothing suspicious from the unattended death.
Do you have anything on a possible police canine fighting an individual yesterday at about 5 or 5:30?
AM or PM?
PM.
I didn't hear of anything. Do you know where?
I do not.
I'll let that oh, wait, that went a lot faster than it. Let's see. So I think I found it here, but it looks like animal control was called. The person showed up at the hospital with a dog bite, but I believe it happened in the county,
Okay.
in Minnehaha County, so you have to check with them. I don't have any reports at all, so it looks like they just notified Minnehaha County and then they're handling it, so. Anything else?